The Harris campaign is rewriting Google News headlines so that they don't appear at first glance to look like a campaign ad. Instead, it looks like a newsroom is writing positive news about the campaign, which really is not a very far-fetched idea to actually be happening anyway. But this is the big story right now. This came from Axios originally. Now everybody's reporting it. Harris campaign's Google ads rewrite news headlines. And they give a bunch of examples here. I'll show you something I found when I clicked on the Ads Transparency Center for Google. And it'll show you, for instance, how often each of these was seen and what they spent on it. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger so you can see it better, Bill. Okay, for instance, so Harris's vision for the future. That's a Kamala Harris for president campaign ad with KamalaHarris.com. Okay, so that's what it looks like. You see how it says KamalaHarris.com here at the top, and then it has this headline. Okay, the headline for what they're writing. Now, if you go down here and see this, yeah, hang on. This would say AP News. Okay, so it's like, okay, you assume you're seeing the AP logo, and that's in the same spot that the last ad I showed you, which was a campaign ad. Okay, it said the website that it came from. This is apnews.com, and the headline under it, VP Harris's economic vision, lower costs and higher wages. But if you look closely, you'll see sponsored, paid for by Harris for president. So it's very odd because they're using the AP logo because they've rewritten these headlines. Here's another one. You'll see independent.co.uk. So the Independent news outlet. VP Harris protects democracy. Trump defends Jan 6 comments. Another one. Well, that's Harris for president. Well, NPR. Okay, but this is also sponsored. NPR. Harris will lower health costs. VP Harris protects healthcare. Now, if you look at that, it says, it'll say like, okay, it was shown 0 to 1K times, August 8 to 15, 2024, spent $0 to $100. But this just runs through a bunch of them that you can look up. And depending on who you read, if you go to say, okay, USA Today, that news article on Google, its headline may have been written by a political campaign. This is written by Bailey Schultz. The news headline about presidential candidate Kamala Harris on your Google search results, it may have been written by her campaign. Harris's team has been launching sponsored posts on Google that link to real news content from various publishers, but feature customized headlines and descriptions crafted by her campaign, a practice experts in Google call common. One sponsored ad that links to NPR's website features the headline, Harris will lower health costs. Another that links to the Associated Press reads, VP Harris's economic vision, lower costs and higher wages. The advertisements were first reported by Axios. While these sponsored posts have been used by other campaigns and comply with Google's policies, some marketing experts worry they could fuel misinformation and distrust in the media. Also, if you are somebody who has considered investing, protecting your savings with precious metals, maybe now's the time. You don't know if what you're reading on Google is a campaign ad or not. You don't know if the US dollar is going to be worth anything, but you're interested in gold or silver. So text Alison to 989898. You'll get your free, no obligation info kit, all about how to protect your IRA or your 401k with gold. They have been in business over 2 decades. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, and you will definitely get all the information you need. So thanks to Birch Gold, text Alison 989898. We talked about this with Chris Whalen the other day. We're spending more on the interest we're paying for our national debt than any other budget item right now next to Social Security. So it's not looking good for the debt the United States has. Again, a lot of people are turning to gold because of that. If you're one of those people, text Alison, 1L Alison to 989898.
Can I be real for a second? Okay, here we go. So, and Jack was saying what I was saying. Okay, yeah, that's right.
Fight.
Grandpa Simpson yelling at the clouds. Okay, but Jack was right in everything that he was saying. I mirror those thoughts. A politician is manipulating the media to their benefit. Oh my gosh, breaking news. This isn't new. We've seen it before and we'll see it again. This is just more of what we've been seeing for decades, if not longer. Okay. Old school politicians, when I say old school, I'm talking 1800s, early 1900s, they would manipulate newspapers. Then TV and radio comes along and they manipulated them as well. So let's be honest. And I know that there's a lot of our followers who are Trump supporters, and that's fine. You're a free American. Do what you do, bro. But let's be honest, the big reason that Trump started Truth Social was because he was kicked off of Twitter and needed somewhere to spread his lies and misinformation. Okay. So they've been manipulating media since day one. This is nothing new. It doesn't surprise me at all that this is going on. It does surprise me how there are certain media outlets who are not going to cover the story, because this is a legit news story. And Alison, I may have to have you refresh my memory on the spectrum. Is Axios considered down the middle, more on the left, or more on the right?
Axios tries to brand itself as a kind of center left, but they would like to say center, just giving you what's out there, kind of not putting a whole lot of spin and just like bullet points and news of the day. So it's just a quick read for people who want to know what's going on without the opinion. But typically what they choose and the tinge of bias that they have, I would say I would put them softly on the left. Not MSNBC, but like softly on the left. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then that's fair, but then they should also be taken seriously as a news outlet. I mean, I'm not going to lie. If one is News Nation or News Now or whatever that one thing, or I would even say, what's Alex Jones thing, InfoWars. If one is InfoWars and 10 is MSNBC, then Axios is probably maybe a 6. And why would they not be taken seriously? And this reporting, I will tell you, the one thing that does kind of concern me is that while this is a legitimate news story, the media outlets that are maybe a 7 to 10 are not going to talk about this. They're going to treat it as if it doesn't exist, or if they get confronted about it, they're going to label it as fake media or Russian bots, or they're going to revert back to 2016, where everything that was anti Hillary Clinton was a Russian asset. Heaven forbid, we listen to Tulsi Gabbard when she says, politicians don't run this country. So it doesn't surprise me, but that this is going on. But it does surprise me that it's not being more reported on. Does that make sense?
Well, a lot of outlets are sharing it, especially the ones that got tagged in some of these campaigns. Like The Independent ran an article about it. Kamala Harris's campaign is editing news headlines in Google Ads to make them seem more favorable. Newsweek has an article, Kamala Harris campaign modifies news headlines in Google Ads. And so it's definitely out there. I actually was more curious about them caring at all, honestly, because
Oh, wow.
it's such a common, it seems like such a common practice that has been around for a long time. And they also seem to be pretty aligned with this presidential campaign versus the Trump. I mean, we know they're not, like, a lot of these news outlets are really not pro-Trump. So it makes me wonder why they are even covering it as much as they are, and where Axios got the information. Like, how did they get tipped off to it? Because normally Axios is just reporting the headlines other people and like bullet points other people are putting out there, but this was independent reporting by Axios, which also tends to be very like DC connected. It's a very DC Beltway connected outlet. So it's like, was this leaked or hey, you should look into this, how did this person find out about it? And I don't know, it's just interesting to me, because I anytime they run somewhat negative press for the folks that I know that they like, I'm like, what's the secondary benefit they're getting from the primary cost? Because they're punching at their own candidates what's the benefit here? Is it because they genuinely are really concerned about the conflation of the politicians and the media, and have already such a bad reputation that they're just trying to preserve their identity at all costs? I don't know.
Maybe somebody's actually doing some real journalism.
It could be. It could be that, yeah, they're just like, okay, you know what? Yeah, we maybe we're down the toilet the last few years, but we're gonna try to resurrect ourselves. I don't know. Something you should not dump down the toilet, AlisonWinePromo.com, and talking about preserving identity. You don't need to preserve this stuff. It's just so good. It ages as well as I do. And frankly, as well as Jack, who's sitting behind me right now, you would barely be able to tell he's over 2. He looks like he's 8 months old, and he will never age because he's coming from the Alison Wine Promo line. And actually, this weighs about as much as he does, so I will not have him hold it up, because also the critics would come after me and say, I have my baby holding up a bottle of wine. So he's just hanging out behind me during the show. But AlisonWinePromo.com, it helps support the show. It helps support the babysitters. It helps keep the show going. And you get an amazing bottle of wine, actually 6 bottles every 3 months. These are handcrafted, hand harvested, in a lot of cases, high altitude, no fillers, no dyes, and natural fermentation, the way that wine's been made for generations and generations, and often in these cases by the same families. And we're talking Chile, Argentina, Italy, Spain. You'll always have a present for that cocktail party for your friends who just constantly whine. Friends who constantly whine. I don't know who I'm talking about. But anyway, give them a bottle of wine. Maybe they'll stop whining. And then they'll be a wino and not a whiner. AlisonWinePromo.com. So the curious thing to me, going over to AlisonMar.locals.com, where you can be on the editorial board for $5 a month. All right, well, we have Grumpy Old Man saying they have a small print disclaimer. MSM Mainstream Media should come with a large print disclaimer. And Brisbane, yep, that's a low blow. What do you think about, there is, okay, the disclaimer at the top, and Google says, hey, this doesn't violate our policies or anything. What do you think about the more nefarious content that's out there? Is the political content that actually maybe not directly sponsored, though that does exist, but it actually is put out there as journalism, when it really is either just regurgitating a press release from a campaign or from a particular agency, or in some cases, yeah, it is sponsored content and they're not necessarily obvious about it. Like the hospitals will sponsor content, and people may not know, hey, this is paid for by a hospital, and so they're going to get this hospital. That kind of stuff seems to me even more egregious, and Grumpy Old Man kind of brings up that point that mainstream media should come with a large print disclaimer that they're kind of already on to the fact, like you were saying, that this stuff is already always, not always, but a lot of the time, it's laced with, the similar infusion, I guess, of politics. And where does the beginning of the newsroom and the, end of the political campaign, where's the line?
Yeah. Okay. So I want to expound on that a little bit, because the lamestream media, they have still, to this day, to the best of my knowledge, CNN, Washington Post, and a few other outlets. I'm sure everybody remembers a few years ago where this alleged Native American approaches these school kids from Covington, Kentucky, in the nation's capital, and is beating this drum. And whether it was the talking chicken heads on The View, it was CNN, every media outlet that was center or center left was accusing this kid of being a racist and the antagonist, when it was proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, with so many different camera angles and things of that nature, that was not the case. CNN went so far as to pay off these kids. And there was I can't think of it off the top of my head, but there was another outlet that agreed to a payout to avoid not a lawsuit, but to avoid disclosure. The CNN and this other outlet, I can't remember off the top of my head, and I know there's still some other litigations that are pending. They just did not want disclosure. They did not want their emails released. They did not want their internal memos released to the public because they would have been proven and shown that all they want is the agenda that they're trying to sell you, and they would have lost all credibility. Not that CNN has like a whole lot of credibility to begin with. And Alison, maybe you remember, I can't remember the other outlet that had to pay out this kid. But not because they didn't want justice, or but
the Sandman, Nick Sandman.
Yeah, Nick Sandman. Yes, that's it. That's his name. Okay. They paid out these lawsuits because they did not want disclosure. They knew that if everything
Washington Post.
Yeah, Watch the Post. That's the other one. Thank you. Yeah, JeffZuckerberg.com. That's it. Sorry. If you know, you get the joke. But, these media outlets don't want you to know what goes on behind the scenes. So, but where I'm going with this, Allie, is they've never once issued an apology. They've never once issued a retraction when it came to the Sandman stuff. And it's what do you do and who do you trust? So, but it also, maybe Axios actually did some real journalism here.
Somebody actually brought up that Rush Limbaugh used to say, okay, this is funny. Hang on. Rush Limbaugh used to say accidental journalism. That's what it's called. You have some reckoning over, though, to do on Rumble. Jeanine says, Bill needs to be specific exactly what lies has Trump spread. I don't want to get into the deep rabbit hole here, but yeah, you're gonna have some
that would be a 2-hour long show.
I actually think that people are more often booted off of these platforms, whether they do lie or they're hyperbolic.
Yeah.
I actually, or even it's not just lying, say something incorrect. I actually think they more often than not get booted from the platforms for saying something that's true that runs up against the power curve. And I don't think these platforms care so much when you say something that's incorrect, but no one cares. And they actually care more about the thing that you say that's probably true, that they don't like people discussing from a particular angle. I mean, that's what's gotten me suspended multiple times from YouTube, not spreading misinformation. It's actually the truthful stuff that's just 3 years too early for the powers that be. Also, did you see the clip of Joe Rogan talking about how Stephen Colbert was interviewing someone at CNN and he just said, we know you report everything down the line or something. You're not biased at CNN. And the audience laughed. And then she was like, was that a joke? Did you see that?
What? Video? No, I did not see that. Oh, yes. I did see that clip. And they thought it was going to be a funny joke. And turns out, well, no, the public knew his own. Yeah, his in-studio audience knew that he was full of shit with that one.
Yeah. Okay. Hang on. Let me cue this up and then we'll watch it. Here we go. Okay. This is stand-up featuring. Okay, he had Adam Ray on. So Joe Rogan had stand-up comic Adam Ray on. Host Stephen Colbert's Late Show was talking to network anchor Caitlin Collins Monday night about CNN being objective. Okay, so this is what happened. Let me just turn the volume on.
We really got at last week, and is still the case now from what we're hearing, is Trump has kind of been thrown on his heels by this, and he's not really sure how to go after Vice President Harris. He knew his attack lines on President Biden. He really has struggled with how to go after someone who's 20 years younger than him, who is a different gender, a different race. It's kind of been this moment where he has not been able to coalesce around a single attack line.
I know you guys are objective over there, that you just report the news as it is. No, I know. CNN makes it. I know
that's supposed to be a laugh line.
I wasn't supposed to be, but I guess it is.
I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I mean, they were just assuming that he was making a joke. I don't know if he was actually making a joke or not. Do you think he was?
I think he was trying to be serious and it backfired on him. I really do believe that. I think Colbert is his numbers are struggling, And this was maybe his kind of slow pitch softball attempt to, hey, if I lose my job here, CNN will hire me as some kind of late night talking point against Bill Maher, whose overtime show is now on CNN. So I think that's what it was, and it backfired on him terribly.
Did you see the WAPO reporter wanting White House to censor the Musk interview?
No, I did not see this.
I did not see that. That's grumpy old man on locals. And Alison can't even repost mainstream media stories without getting strikes. Right? Yeah, remember, I've been suspended for showing what the mainstream media. Okay, my producer's coming in here demanding something. I'm not sure. Let me tell everybody real fast about how you can send me mail. P.O. Box 3355, Denellen, Florida 34432. Send something Jack and Lily can open on the way home because the producers do open the mail. So nothing creepy, nothing edible because we'll think you're trying to poison us. But winning lottery tickets, seeds for plants that grow well in Florida. Moving set now behind me. Loose pocket change. College funds, even though college is probably a waste of money at this point and time, and really anything else. I get drawings. I got some artwork from people, and we are working to send everybody artwork from the producers in gratitude for the support of the show. P.O. Box 3355, Denellen, Florida 34432.